Come on in, it's time to hear. God's word is calling loud and clear. Learning His love every day. With joy and faith we sing and pray. Welcome, 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 gather round. Let His peace and love astound. Hearts wide open, voices strong. Come together where we...
Long ago, in the land of Egypt, there lived a wise and kind man named Joseph. Joseph had once been a boy with big dreams, but his jealous brothers had sold him as a slave. Yet God had a special plan for Joseph. Through many ups and downs, he became a powerful ruler in Egypt, second only to Pharaoh himself. While living in Egypt, Joseph married a kind and beautiful woman named Asenath, and God blessed them with 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. Joseph loved his sons very much, and he always taught them about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Even though they were growing up in Egypt, he wanted them to know that they were part of God's chosen family. One day, news came that Joseph's father, Jacob, also called Israel, was very old and sick. Joseph wanted his sons to receive a blessing from their grandfather, so he took Ephraim and Manasseh to see him. Jacob was very happy to see his grandsons. Though his eyes were weak from old age, he placed his hands on their heads to bless them. But something surprising happened. Instead of putting his right hand on Manasseh, the older son, Jacob crossed his arms and placed his right hand on Ephraim, the younger son. Joseph was confused. "Father, you have made a mistake. Manasseh is the oldest. The right hand should be on him," Joseph said. But Jacob shook his head and smiled. "My son, I know what I am doing. Manasseh will also be blessed, but Ephraim will become even greater star. His descendants will grow into a mighty nation." Joseph did not understand everything, but he trusted that God had a special plan. And just as Jacob had said, Ephraim's family became one of the largest tribes in Israel. Ephraim and Manasseh grew up in the palace, surrounded by the wealth and knowledge of Egypt. They learned to read and write, and they watched as their father ruled with wisdom and kindness. The brothers listened closely to their father's stories about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They learned that God had made a great promise to their family, and that they were part of His special plan. Years passed, and Jacob, their grandfather, passed away. Joseph and his brothers buried him in Canaan, the land God had promised them. But after Joseph also grew old and died, a new Pharaoh came to power who did not remember Joseph or the good he had done for Egypt. This Pharaoh saw that the Israelites had grown into a large and strong people, and he became afraid. He made them slaves and forced them to work very hard. The people cried out to God for help, and God was listening. Ephraim and Manasseh had passed down the stories of God's promises to their children and grandchildren. Even though many years had gone by, their families never forgot that they belonged to God and that He would one day rescue them from Egypt. Many years later, a baby named Moses was born among the Israelites. God chose him to lead His people out of Egypt and into the land He had promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The descendants of Ephraim and Manasseh were part of the great journey out of Egypt, known as the Exodus. They became 2 of the most important tribes in Israel. Just as Jacob had said, Ephraim's tribe became one of the greatest, and Manasseh's tribe was also blessed with land and strength. Through many generations, God's promise never failed. Ephraim and Manasseh's families grew and became a part of the great nation of Israel, fulfilling the blessing that Jacob had spoken over them so long ago. The lesson for us: This story teaches us that God's plans are always bigger than our own. Even when things don't seem to make sense, like when Jacob blessed the younger brother instead of the older, God knows what he is doing. He sees the future and has a special plan for each of us. Just like Ephraim and Manasseh, we are part of God's big story, and he loves us very much. If we trust in him, he will guide us, bless us, and lead us to the wonderful future he has prepared for us.
Come on in, it's time to hear. God's word is calling loud and clear. Learning his love every day. With joy and faith we sing and pray. Welcome